This would be a designated anchor point for an employee to anchor off to. With anchor points, they should be inspected at least an annual basis, and then they should be tagged for its intended use and when the last inspection was done by a qualified person. This is a horizontal lifeline. Make sure that this is inspected each time before you use it, and never connect your lanyard directly to a horizontal lifeline. This particular one is designed to use a traveling system that will run down the horizontal lifeline. All the shock absorbing power in this lifeline is all in this unit. This is a connector, and this is the gate of the connector. All connectors have to have a double locking or a positive locking system, which requires 2 actions to open the gate. In this one, I have to elevate, twist, and then the gate will open here. This is the same style of connector, except it's designed a little differently. I have to depress the secondary lock in order to open up this gate. Before using personal fall protection systems, make sure you go through and do a thorough inspection. We're going to start with this connector on this 6-foot shock absorbing lanyard. We're going to look at the hardware. We're going to look to make sure there isn't any cracks, any damages, any corrosion, making sure that all the gates and the locks function just fine. Now we're going to move on to the nylon. The nylon, we're looking for broken stitching, any cuts, any tears. If we see any fading on the lanyard, that's an indication that this was exposed to harmful UV light rays, or also that a chemical could have been exposed to it. Make sure the tags are intact. When we're looking at the tags, we're going to find the data manufacturer. Go through and inspect the tags. Make sure they're always in legible condition. Make sure all the tag components are there. Also be sure that a competent person has inspected your personal fall protection systems on a minimum of an annual basis. Some manufacturers require these to be inspected semi-annually or every 6 months. You'll be able to tell if the competent person has inspected the equipment. They'll put a little mark in this calendar here letting you know that this gear has been inspected. This is a 6-foot shock absorbing lanyard. OSHA states that when somebody takes a fall, their free fall distance must be limited to no more than 6 feet. This is why this is 6 foot long. This is a shock absorbing part of the lanyard. There is 42 inches of a rip stitch arresting pack in this. When somebody falls, this will blow out that full 42 inches. So we're going to make sure this is inspected and it's in good condition, no rips or tears or damage to it. Then onto this connector. Once again, we're looking for corrosion, cracks, damages. The secondary lock works well. The gate is functioning just fine. Before using your harness for the first time, make sure to inspect it thoroughly. You want to grab the harness by the dorsal D-ring and give it a good shake. That'll allow all the leg straps and all the components to fall into place. Okay. This is the dorsal D-ring. You're going to make sure it's not bent, cracked, or there's any appearance of any damage at all. Anything stretched, any corrosion to the dorsal D-ring lets you know it's time to pull it out of service. Then we're going to move on to the nylon webbing. Take the webbing, put it in a U shape, and rub your fingers up and down the webbing here. Feel for any thin spots. Any frays, any cuts, any tears, it's an indication that we need to pull this out of service and get rid of it. Roller buckles, the tongue shouldn't be bent or damaged. The roller buckle should freely spin. If the roller is crushed or not moving at all, it could indicate that it's been exposed to a fall. On the leg straps, we have a series of grommets here. The grommet should be round, not bent, damaged, stretched at all. Any stretching could indicate that this harness has been exposed to a fall. Moving on to the impact indicators. Every manufacturer designs their harnesses a little bit different, and they're going to have different impact indicators. In the case of this manufacturer, they formed an S-stitch on the webbing. If somebody takes a fall, this S-stitch will blow out, a little flag will pop out of here, and it will be a little red indication here. This is indicating that this harness has been exposed to a fall. On the sub-pelvic strap, one of the more important pieces to the harness itself. This area in here gets a lot of wear. Make sure there isn't any broken stitching, any frayed edges, any thin spots to the sub-pelvic strap. This sub-pelvic strap is what takes the weight of the fall when you fall into it. Here's where the tags are at. This is a little spot where you can personalize this harness if you want to write your name on it. Never write your name or use a marker to write on the webbing here. Some manufacturers will state that you've now introduced a chemical to it if you write on it with a Sharpie or any other sort of marker. The tags themselves, this one indicates some limitations to the harness. In this case, you have to weigh at least 130 pounds to use this, but no more than 310 pounds. Going over here to the inspection tag, when this is put into service, you want to put down the date it was put into service. Then in the case of this manufacturer, they want this inspected by a competent person every 6 months. The competent person is going to inspect it thoroughly, and they're going to note down when they did that inspection. But be sure to always follow the manufacturer's manual that the harness came with. That's going to give you your best inspection steps for inspecting the harness that you have.